Yes, good afternoon, all. And can I, am I audible to you? Hello, hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Good afternoon. So, in this class, and we'll be trying to understand, what is social change, what is social change, and how that social change do happen in society, and what happens, after a social change comes in overall society. You know, uh, uh, and one of the main problems of sociology is to understand and how and why societies change, right? So all societies undergo changes, and in some cases they may be radical, or and in the sense that some social institutions may be replaced by new ones, or there may be major changes in the existing social institutions. For example, the prevalence of nuclear families in the place of traditional joint families has brought a change in the family, right? So, as a social institution. So, as we all see that, the tendency. Furthermore, and there are other institutions which no longer exist. For instance, if a society based on a slavery, which is replaced by feudalism, then the social institutions in that slave society may disappear too, right? So, if we observe societies over a period of time, right, historically speaking, so we will be uh, uh, we will find that changes have taken place in all of them, right? So in some cases there may be gradual, that is spread over a long period of time, and in others there may be rapid. So why we have to study the aspect of social change? I think let us begin that exercise by understanding that aspect. We have to study social change because we live in society, that primarily, and we have to study social change because we are sociologists too, right? So because the lot of changes that are happening in our everyday life, and of course those changes are not come by just spontaneous, and it took thousands of years or hundreds of years or even tens of years to bring that social changes in society. And we will be discussing that aspect in detail, that why social change take place, right? Why social change take place, right? So social change, as we know, by that does not take place merely by chance or due to some factors predetermined by fate, right? So there may be several forces operating simultaneously in society which bring about change. Some of these the changes may be external to social institutions. Changes caused by a change in the economy, for instance, or the production relations in one such instance, we can see, right? So, industrialization creates changes in social institutions. The changes in the family structure mentioned, as we just mentioned, are caused by the impact of industrialization, right? So, nuclear families are more adaptive to the nature of industrial societies than joint families. The latter are more suited to pre industrial, mainly agrarian societies. At the same time, there are changes producing agents inside a society as well. Social movements are one of these internal forces which contribute to changes. Of course, there may be at times prevent or resist changes. And uh, uh, this social change, just before we elaborate and discuss at length in the present class, we'll try to understand what is social change actually, and how one can define the nature of social movements, and particularly the social change. In fact, this so when we talk about social change, right? So when we talk about social change, we are trying to understand that social change means that alteration of mechanism within the social structure. So just to put it as simple as that possible. In other words, social change means in sociological discourse is that changes in human interactions and relations that transform cultural and social institutions. So that just to put it very simple, the simple in simple understanding, right? So there is actually a link between the social change and social movement. Why? Because that social change does not just come and go, right? Who actually starts? It is the social movement. It is a group of individuals who come together and form a collective action, and they orient themselves to direct themselves, to form a social action, and that social action leads to a social movement, and that social movement leads to social change. So there is a link between these two. Therefore, when we talk about social change, there is an important aspect that we have to discuss is that is social movement. So now let us understand what is social movement, my dear friends. And that social movement means what? It means that it is a variety of collective attempts to bring about change, right? That attempts maybe bring about change in certain social institutions and to create an entirely new social order, right? So or the attempts may present a socially shared demand for change in some aspects of the social order. In other words, the social movement, is a collectivity which acts with some continuity to promote or resist change in the society or group of which it is a part. I'm using the words here, two important words. One is that a social movement can resist a change or promote a change. What I mean here, it means that there are some social movements. Those movements, the which are not happy with the existing social structure, they aim to bring, they promote changes, in society. Of course, there are other sort of social movements that they resist changes in society. So, what is that? I can give an example just to lighten your mind. That, for example, the lower caste movement is a movement against the social order, because the lower caste movement, particularly the untouchable caste movement, and which is led by Ambedkar and others, particularly this pre-independent era, and of course those movements are still have a tremendous impact on the present society as well. So what they try to do, so they question the existing system, because that existing system is not directed towards equitable society, because that entire system itself is graded into a different caste, one above the other and one below the two other. Right. So this is a graded, since it is a graded caste system, this movement, particularly from the lower caste, they are not happy with the present hierarchy system. So they what they do, they promote changes in society. That changes, they aim to bring an egalitarian society. So this is one form of social movement. And another form of social movement also I can give you is that, for example, women groups, right? The gender movements also, they question the authority and patriarchy of the existing social structure. So what they do, so they aim for to bring changes and to bring modernity in society. So just to what they demand is to have a equitable share in public space and opportunities in the society, right? So this is one sort of understanding of social movements. These movements, they try to promote the changes, social changes in society. But whereas there are other sort of social movements, those movements are, they resist the social change. Means what? They don't want social change at all, because one group is promoting social change and another group is resisting that social change. You understand, right? So these groups are basically, and you can just take the example of fundamentalist the groups, and that could be Islamic, that could be RSS Hindu, or that could be Christian, or and so on. So what they do basically, and as you might have seen that every year there is a trend that keeps happening during the Valentine's Day, right? So as you all know that February 14th is a Valentine's Day that generally that people celebrate, particularly the men and women who come together in the name of love, and they celebrate the meaning and connotation of love, and they celebrate their bonding, right? So this is one sort of understanding. But there are the same groups, and particularly from the Hindu organizations like RSS, they resist this change. They say that this sort of social change we don't accept in society, because they think that this sort of modern values, this modern ethos, what they do according to them is that it disturbs the very social order of Hindu society. So they resist that social change, right? So this is another form of social movement that we can see. Therefore, the social movement can be both. It can be promote change, and it can also resist change. So you can see these two extreme factors altogether, and we will be discussing a lot in this lesson, my dear friends, right? So what I'm trying to explain you is that social movement is an effort by a large number of people to solve collectively a problem they feel, which they share in common, right? So therefore the social movements involve collective action as against actions of a small group of individuals. Secondly, the collective attempt is designed to promote social change, or resist social change in the society, and in which the attempts are made by group of individuals, right? Therefore social movements involve collective action by the people, right? So any form of collective action cannot be labeled as a social movement, right? And this is where we have to be very clear about this point, that again I repeat that any form of collective action cannot be labeled as a social movement, even if it is directed towards bringing the existing social values. For example, in some places, when a car, just or a truck, knocks down a pedestrian, what happens during that situation? A mob collects immediately and starts beating up the driver, right? The mob is provoked because the driver's actions have led to injury or loss of a life on the road, right? So hence this could be regarded as a form of collective action, no doubt in that, to ensure sanctity of life and to prevent rash driving. But can we call this as a social movement? No, because this is just a impulsive outburst, because they immediately reacted to that incident, right? So therefore we are saying it is an impulsive outburst, right? Hence that uh, 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 hence this sort of collective actions are not called as social movements. Hence, another feature of a social movement is that it should be sustained and not sporadic. What I mean here is that it should be sustained and not sporadic. Not sporadic in the sense what it is not just comes and goes. It is a sustained an effort, that actually origins in itself, and that goes on for a period of time towards achieving its mission and vision of the social movement. Similarly, social movement differs from a crowd by being a long-term collectivity, not a quick, spontaneous grouping. However, crowds may emerge as a result of social movement. That is a different case altogether. At the same time, one has to keep in mind that social movements are different from other movements in society. Social movements are different from other movements in society. For instance, we have the cooperative movement or the trade union movement, which we are quite familiar with. Just to give you an example is that in the industries, this what workers they form themselves a trade union, right? So just to bargain the interest, and either it could be to increase their wages and providing security to their jobs and providing security, better environment at the workplace, and so on. Right. So these trade unions in the factories, they though they form a collective action, though they start a movement. However, in sociological discourse, in however, in the sociological discourse, we are not seeing those trade union movements as social movements. Why? Because this so by this mean is that these trade unions or cooperatives or such other organizations function under a given set of rules. It has a hierarchy. For instance, you can find the hierarchy, the president, vice president, executive committee member, general secretary, and so on. So when you have the particular structure of that trade union, so it has some fixed rules and regulations of the union. So where a member is expected to follow the rules and regulations of the particular trade union. So this includes what this includes procedures for recruitment, subsequently expulsion, for example, exclusion and punishment. If those were not follow the rules and regulations of the trade union, they are bound to be expelled, from the trade union. So the membership of this organization is not open to all. This is very clear. I'm trying to indicate here, right? So can we go and join in the trade union? No. That one of the primary criteria is that we should be a worker in that factory, right? So if you're not worker in that factory, so we are not entitled to get that membership in that trade union. Therefore, that membership is not open to all. It is very restricted. Therefore, it is not a social movement. Is it clear for you? Trade union movement is not a social movement because that membership is limited, that recruitment is the association is limited, and which is not open to all society members. Therefore, when the society, complete society, is not involved in that trade union movement, therefore that movement is not called social movement. That movement is not called social movement, right? So that movement is not called social movement. In other words, a movement which is institutionalized in the case of a trade union can function with a fixed structure and hierarchy, right? As I told you that it has some rules and regulations. That the entire trade union movement, it is expected that to follow the rules and regulations of the union, and it has some specific ideology where a member is expected to follow and believe and behave and according to the rules and regulations of the that organization. So since that membership is limited, which is not open to entire society, therefore we are saying that this trade union is not a social movement at all. Is not a social movement at all. Whereas why actually we are laying stress on spontaneity because social movements do not follow fixed pattern of hierarchy. This is where I'm trying to indicate here, right? They are able to innovate new features of organization, right? Institutional would in fact prevent any form of innovation because of its fixed structure. What I mean here is that these social movements generally they have a character of do not follow, they do not follow a fixed pattern of rules and regulations. The social movements involves innovations. It means what? It forms and takes the position and shape of the movement according to the social situation, according to the social demands and the social actions of the social movements, right? So since it does not have a fixed structure, unlike a trade union, the social movements, they do not follow a fixed pattern of hierarchy. They do not have a fixed pattern of hierarchy, and and since it is, and another thing is that it is open. Its membership is open to everybody, right? So when that membership is open to everybody, we are saying it is a social movement because that social movement is open to everybody. everybody, right? So that, therefore these trade union movements are not associated with the character of social movement, right? So whereas that social movement associated with its character of social movement, because it does not follow a hierarchy, it does not have an hierarchy, and it does not have an institutionalized set of procedures and rules, right? So therefore, since it is an open to all, and we are saying that that movement is social in character, and that process is called social movement, right? So uh, uh, in other words, that we had mentioned earlier in the section pertaining to that, there are two qualifying features, for a movement to become a social, right? In other words, there are two important factors that are needed to emerge in the form of a social movement, right? So that a social movement constitutes a collective attempt not only to promote change but also resist change. As I told you, these social movements have a character of both characteristics. That is, one social movement they promote change, and another movement they resist that change. Generally these two happens in the society simultaneously. That particularly the fundamental religious groups, they don't allow changes in society, they don't accept the values of modernity, for example. But whereas the other sort of groups, social groups, they promote social change, they want social change in the society, because they think that that existing social order is not equitable in terms of providing equal opportunities, to everyone, irrespective of gender, irrespective of caste, irrespective of the region and religion, and so on. Right? So those group, since they're not happy with that, the existing social order, they aim to promote social change in society. But whereas the other social groups, and they resist that social change in society, because they don't allow social changes, in the existing social order, because they think that once they accept the new forms of social forces, they think that that entire society, they tend to collapse altogether. That you can see in religious code of conduct, for example, be it in Hindu, be it in Islam, be it in the Christian authorities, these fundamentalist groups, they don't allow to bring changes in social order, because they think that once those social order takes over the existing social order, they think that it has a very harm to the existing religious order altogether. Therefore, they resist that social change. So the social movements have two characters. One is the one is to promote social change, and another is the to resist social change. To resist social change, right? So and in fact, just as I can give you an example, that when we talk about Indian politics, and I'm sure you might have learned also that Gandhi and Ambedkar politics. Just I'm relating here just to lighten your mind. Is that the Gandhi led one form of social movement, but whereas Ambedkar also led another form of social movement, right? So Gandhi, according to Gandhi, is that he is always reformistic in his own ideas and vision. So he used to think that no, there is no need to overthrow the existing social order, because Gandhi always felt that the reform, if you bring a new reform in the society, a new an equitable society is possible by the inclusion of reformistic ideas in the existing social order. But whereas the people like Ambedkar, so they thought that that entire Hindu social order is itself is inequitable and is graded one over the other. So since that entire structure is inequitable and unjustifiable by its nature, Ambedkar thought that this bringing a change in society is not possible, right? So he thought that bringing a reformistic agenda is not possible in society. Then he thought that no, since this reformistic agenda is not possible in the existing social order, he thought that just to nullify the existing social order. In fact, he has written a book called Annihilation of Caste. Annihilation of caste. So what he means is that unless you annihilate that caste, you cannot bring a positive social change in society. So this is very very clear in terms of understanding of these two movements simultaneously that existed in the past. Even those Gandhism and also Ambedkarism is even existing even today. That you can see those two tendencies, they go side by side, right? They go side by side. Uh, uh, that and for instance, I can also give you another example is that the Naxalite movement, that Naxalite movement, which actually started in 1968 in West Bengal, and it could be regarded as a social movement because they thought that the existing social order is not does not bring equitable society, and it only reproduces and produces and reproduces unequal social relations, economic relations in society. Therefore, that Naxalite movement is, they thought that they, since we cannot do justice with the existing social order, they thought that just to bring a revolution in society. That what is revolution? It's not a reformistic idea. The revolution is that bring a new social order altogether. Bring a new social order altogether. Even this sort of movements also is called as a social movements, my dear friends. Right? So, uh, even we have just to lighten your mind, and again I'm giving you another example is that particularly it happened in 1920s and early parts of 19th century, is that we have a famous moment in the South Indian history, is that the SNDP movement, right? SNDP movement, and SNDP means Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana movement, Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana movement, right? This movement is generally is that happened in the Kerala, where the lower caste were not allowed to walk on the roads. They're not allowed to have drink water from the wells. They're not allowed to for their entry into the temples. So this Narayana Guru, so what he has done that, so he organized a movement saying that no, saying that he protested against the existing caste hierarchy and the caste untouchability over the lower caste. Then he said that this is not permitted in society at all. So he mobilized people, particularly the lower caste, and in fact he gave direction for that movement in Kerala, and where he sought an entry into the temples and questioned the existing values of the caste system, right? So this is another form of a social movement, my dear friends, and we can have a number of moments that we can quote elsewhere that existed in Indian history, right? So and let me tell you now that what are the types of social movements, right? What are the types of social movements? And generally we have uh, four types of social movements. Is that one is that migratory social movement, and reformistic social movement, revolutionary social movement, and resistance or reactionary social movements. Let us understand, just to enlighten your mind, is that what is a migratory movement, right? So what is migratory movement? Generally migration, as you all know, that movement of people from one region to another is called migration. So as you all know this fact, right? So it generally happens during wars, right? It generally happens during not only wars but also natural calamities and so on. So when people, group of people migrate from one region to another region, either it could be economic reasons, political reasons, and natural reasons, and natural hazards, for example. So they migrate in large numbers to another place. So when they migrate and settle in a new place, so they not only migrate physically, but they also carry the culture along with them, right? So once they take that culture and the cultural forms along with them, So once they go to the new place, what they do, they not only establish themselves, they also establish their cultural patterns in that society, right? That brings a social movement in society. That brings a social movement in society. So this is also one of the types of social movement. In other words, when a large number of people migrate due to discontent or due to the shared hope for a better future in some other land, we are saying this is a type of migratory movements. For instance, the mass exodus of men to Gulf countries, especially from the state of Kerala, is an example of a migratory social movement, right? So as you all know that the entire Gulf now is dominated by Indians, and particularly when we talk about Indians, and we primarily talking about the Kerala people, that they migrate to Gulf countries, and they are establishing their diasporas, in various other parts of Gulf countries. Not only Gulf countries, but also we find Indians even in America also, right? So this migratory movement is also a one type of social movement, because this once they go and establish there, so they also bring social change in that particular, not only here but also there. Why am I using this too? Because once a group of people migrate from here, it leads to social change in here also in India. Once they go to other parts of the world, once they establish themselves, they are that also leads to another social change. That social change here happens at two extreme fronts. One is the destination. One is the place where they are living. Right. In India, for example, in India also it causes two social changes, because they are all living here. Once they go and establish there, that also leads to a social change, right? So this sort of migratory movement, one can say, is a form of social movement that brings social change in society, isn't it? Right. So we also talk about the another form of social movement, that is reform movement, right? As we just discussed, that what is reformist movement. Now let me try to elaborate it further, right? So this type of movement constitutes a collective attempt to change some parts of the society without completely transforming it. A reform movement accepts the basic pattern of the social order of that society and orients itself around an ideal, right? So it makes use of those institutions such as the press, the government, the school, the church, and so on to support its program. Reform movements usually rise on behalf of some distressed or exploited group. Reform movements are almost impossible in an authoritarian society. Such movements are mainly possible in democratic societies where people tolerate criticism. For example, the socio-religious reform movement of the 19th and 20th centuries in India aim to remove social practices such as sati, denial of education to women, ban on widow marriages, ill treatment of widows, and fight against untouchable practices, child marriages, for example, caste disabilities, and so on. So these are all the reformistic movements, my dear. These reforming movements, they don't attempt to bring complete absolute changes in society. They say that it's like a repairing the, suppose if you have a mobile, right? So once, if you have a mobile, suppose if the speaker of that mobile is not working, what you do? You don't overthrow that mobile phone in the dustbin. So what you do? You go to an expert, right? The mobile expert, particularly a mobile shop, right? Ask him to get it repaired, right? Because you don't want it to be overthrown, right? So what does the technician does? So he rectifies the problem of the device. So he says that there is a problem with the speaker. So that if the speaker problem is solved, then entire system, that mobile system gets again started working, isn't it? That act is called reform. That act is called reform. But whereas that if that entire motherboard is not working, for example, of that mobile device, suppose if that entire motherboard is not working, or an entire circuit, if entire that that circuit, lands up in major problem. So suppose if that expert says that no, there is no use of repairing it because it cannot be repaired, the what you do in that case, you just overthrow that that mobile device, isn't it? So if you overthrow that mobile device, it is called revolutionary attempt. But if you repair it, it is called reformistic attempt. Is it clear? Is it clear? So reformistic attempt is the repairing of the device, but the revolutionary attempt is that overthrowing of that device and bringing a new device altogether. So even in the case also, this reformistic movement, particularly as we have witnessed, and during the 19th and 20th centuries, that there are a lot of socio-religious movement, reform movements that that emerged in India. Particularly those movements, they thought that yes, there are some problems in the existing social structure, and they thought that yes, those problems need to be rectified, not to overthrow the complete social structure altogether. It's like repairing the social structure. They thought that what are the major repairs. They identified that sati, the performing practicing the sati at that time, is a major social evil according to them. They fought against the ban of sati, and they fought against ban on widow remarriages. They fought against ill treatment of widows. They fought against the performance of child marriages. They fought against caste disabilities and so on. So these are called repairs in existing social structure. Therefore, those movements are called reformistic movements. Those movements are called reformistic movements. But whereas the we have another, so the third type of social movement, that is called revolutionary movement. Revolutionary movement. Such a movement seeks to overthrow the existing system and replace it with a totally different one. As I told you that if that entire motherboard is not working of the of a particular mobile device, if that expert says that it cannot be repaired at all, what you do, you just overthrow that mobile device in a dustbin and trying to buy a new device altogether, isn't it? So that sort of an act is called revolutionary act. That sort of an act is called revolutionary act, because such that the revolutionary social movement is such a movement which seeks to overthrow the existing system and replace it with a totally different one. Revolutionary movements aim at reconstructing the entire social order. Reconstructing the entire social order. They challenge the existing norms and propose a new scheme of values. The examples that immediately come to one's mind, of course, we have that the French Revolution, for example, Russian Revolution, another. So what they done? So they have those revolutionary movements. They completely overthrown the existing social order at that time, and they created a new forms of social order which is supported by modern values altogether. Those attempts are called, those movements are called the revolutionary social movements, which is a third type of social movement. First, we discussed migratory social movement. The second one is the reformistic, and third one is the revolutionary. And the fourth, which we are going to discuss now, is that resistance or reactionary movement. What does it mean? Again, I'll give you an example of mobile device, right? So that mobile device, suppose there is a problem with that mobile device. So you go to a again you go to a mobile shop, and where you ask the technician to get it repaired, right? So that get it repaired is called reformistic movement. Suppose you are not happy with that entire device, you overthrow it and bring a new one, that is called revolutionary act. But whereas there another act is called reactionary or resistance movements. What does it mean? And what does it mean is that whereas you don't allow that device to get it repaired at all. You don't allow the device to get it touched by a technician at all. So you think that, no, suppose if you get it repaired, removing one part of the mobile device and install a new part into that system. This reactionary people, they think that once you do that, that entire the system will get collapsed, right? You don't allow to bring any change in that mobile device. And for instance, the best thing to tell you is that the example is that the fundamentalist organizations, the religion or religious organizations, they don't allow bring changes in society. They react to that, existing modernity. They're not, they don't, they're not happy with the existing modern values, because they always react and they resist such changes in society. So those sort of social movements are called resistance or reactionary social movements. This arise among people who are dissatisfied with certain aspects of change. That the movement seeks to recapture and reinstate old values. For example, the Islamic fundamentalist movement and RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh of Hindu organization, can be classified under the heading of reactionary or resistance social movements, right? So these are the types of social movements. So again, I repeat, we discussed about migratory movement, we discussed about reform movement, we discussed about revolutionary movement, we also discussed about resistance or reactionary movements, right? Now what we'll do after discussing these types of movements, now we'll try to understand the functions of social movements. What does it do? If a social movement happen, so what sort of functions it can perform? Let us try to understand this aspect in detail now, right? So this but social movements, they function, the basically is that first thing is that mediation. First thing is that mediation. So they help to relate the individual to the larger society. That's called mediation. What function it does? It mediates between the individual and to a larger society, right? That is social movement. That is social movement. It mediates between the individual and society. It mediates between the individual and society. They give each person a chance to participate, right, to express his ideas and to play a role in the process of that social change. So that's called mediation. That's what social change, social movement can do. It can function. The one of the prime function is that it can mediate between the individual and society. It can mediate between the individual and society. And what it does after that? So the next major primer function is that it pressurizes. It pressurizes, right? That social movement stimulate the formation of organized groups, right? That work systematically to see that their plans and policies are implemented. Their plans and policies are implemented, right? So it pressurizes. For example, it pressurizes on the government to bring social change. It pressurizes on the society itself. It pressurizes and fights against the dominant sections and dominant ideologies of the society, to bring a possible social change in society. So the second function is that it pressurizes. The first function is that it mediates. The second function, it pressurizes, right? And third function is that it promotes collective consciousness. It promotes collective consciousness, among the group. This is the significant function because social movements generate and develop ideas which spread throughout society, in the form of collective consciousness, Therefore, the functions of social movements are three basically in nature, right? One is that it mediates between the individual and society, and the second one is that it pressurizes on the social structure, it pressurizes on the government, it pressurizes on the the dominant structures and ideologies to bring a possible social change in society. And the third major function is that it brings collective consciousness among the group, among the social members of the particular group, right? So these three functions can provide by a social movement, by a social movement, right? And what generally how that social movements generally happens. That social movement it doesn't start by itself, right? Or itself by overnight, isn't it? So it has some process, it has some process. uh, uh, what are the social conditions or motivational factors that are both necessary and sufficient to the generation, to the origin of social movement, right? A social movement represents an effort by a large number of people to solve collectively a problem or problems that they feel they have in common. In doing so, the people must first understand the social problem. Therefore, the problem must be observable, and secondly, it must be objective. This means that it exists even if we are not aware of it. What does it mean? It means that social movement, just to begin, what it requires that social problem, right? Once you have a social problem, once you identify a social problem, usually who identifies it? It is the intellectual class of that particular group or particular society. It is that group who actually identifies the social problem. After identifying that social problem, what that intellectual class does is that they organizes a group of individuals. They go to each house, for example, they go to each member of that particular group. They train them about the existing social problem. And once they train them about the existing social problem, they also train them how to overcome such social problem through collective action. Then they direct the entire social group, saying that once you participate in in the social movement, we can bring a possible social change in society. So once they train these social individuals, that automatically the members of the group, they participate in that social movement. Once they participate in that social movement, that movement turns into a larger social movement, right? So it actually begins, that social movement begins from a social problem. Once you understand the social problem, you after understanding the social problem, you actually therefore that understanding the social problem is very very important of the social group to emerge in the form of social movement, to emerge in the form of social movement, right? uh, uh, and the next one is that another important aspect that why social movements emerge is that relative deprivation. That relative deprivation is one of the prime features for the social emergence of the social movement. That relative deprivation is actually that unhappiness is the turning point, for them to participate in the social movement, right? So they feel that they are not getting enough. They feel that they are not getting equitable share in the social structure. In other words, they feel that they are deprived of something, and therefore they participate in the social movement. So one of the prime features for the social movements to emerge is that the existing relative deprivation among the members of the group, among the members of the society, right? And another feature is that uh, uh, another feature is that the social movements are also originate from structural strain, are also originate from structural strain. When the prevailing value system and the normative structure does not meet the aspirations of the people, the society faces strain. The society faces strain, right? Let us take the example of women's movement, right? So, in a largely traditional society like India, women are usually assigned passive roles, as we all know that, right? So, women is expected to be subordinated to males, and it is believed that as a daughter, a female must obey her father, as a wife to her husband, as a widow to her sons and daughters, right? So, such a value system would encourage women to be content as housewives and mothers. So, the duties outside the house, such as education, earning a livelihood, etc., are the domain of males. So, this is a patriarchal ideology, right? Uh, 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 that over the years we can see that opportunities for both education and employment are being increasingly made available for women. As a result, the role of women are changing. However, the value system remains the same. Therefore, women may take up jobs, but their household duties remain unchanged. This obviously results in greater burden on work on the working woman, isn't it? So, as long as this value system remains same, see, you can take the example. A woman, she may be an IAS officer in the public domain, but once she goes to home, right? She is expected to perform the domestic duties, right? So there is a structural strain altogether because the values remain unchanged here. Suppose if a woman is working as a bank employee, right? Though though she enjoys some place in that banking sector, but once she go back to the home, right, she is expected to perform home duties, right? So because the values remain unchanged here, right? So therefore that structure produces strain. Structure produces strain among the women, and once that the strain increases, that women, they think that there is a problem with the structure altogether. Therefore, they participate in the movement. They emerge in the form of a larger movement, which due to the existing of structural strain, due to the existing of structural strain, right? So, an accumulation of all these factors have made women challenge the existing values. This has resulted in the women's movement, which is also referred to as the feminist movement, as we all know that. And women who have become conscious of these prejudices and evils in society are now collectively trying to redefine the existing value system. So this need has arisen because the traditional value system is causing strain to women who want to think and act as independent beings. As such, this movement is not directed against males. It is only an assertion that a new value system based on equality of all human beings should replace the existing value system. So this is a strain theory. In other words, once you have a strain in the existing structure, right? So there is a possibility of the women in this case. There is a possibility of the different social groups in the society who have the capacity to come outside and participate in the social movement to bring a social change in society. In other words, to establish an egalitarian society, and so on, right? So and there is also another movement, as I told you, is that this revitalization means what? Which means that this is a reactionary movement, particularly those who are traditionally upheld, those who are traditionally mobilized, they don't want changes in society. They always be look for a movement to resist any change in society, and to uphold the values of existing social order, right? So this is another important aspect of social change, my dear friends, right? So, in fact, this all these social movements, one can see that what is important here is that one is the leadership and the ideology. One is the leadership and the ideology. All social movements have a specific ideology and specific leadership. And for example, these feminist movements, that women movements, have a specific ideology to question the existing social order, but whereas the Dalit movement, social movement, have a specific ideology to question the existing social movement, but whereas the labor movements, they have a different ideology to question the unequal society in the social structure. So, which means what? That ideology and leadership plays a crucial role in social movements. Ideology and leadership plays a crucial role in social movement, because it is the ideology that cements the bonding between individuals of that particular movement. Right? Suppose if that ideology directs the social movements, and if the individual he shows his interest to follow that ideology, and he joins into that particular social movement, right? Therefore, one of the defining factors of characteristics of social movement is the ideology. That ideology, because that ideology, is a major factor that separates between other forms of social movements that exist in society, right? That exist in society. Therefore, that ideology plays a crucial role in defining the characteristics of social movements, in defining the characteristics of social movement. That ideology, very simply, it denotes a set of related beliefs held by a group of people. It helps in understanding a situation. Further, it legitimizes actions pursued by the people of that particular social movement. Therefore, just as a leader is important for guiding a movement, an ideology is also important, as it makes people understand and justify the implications of their actions. So one can rarely conceive of a social movement, without having a defined set of ideologies and procedures, right? So friends, so I hope you understand this class. The social movements is a major factor, that brings social change in society. So we discussed at length. I hope you all enjoyed today's class. So if you have any question, you can ask me. And any questions you have, friends?
Hi, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, sir. This is Ahmed.
Yeah, I am yeah, is it fine now?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
as this is the last class, right, sir?
Sorry.
This is the last class today, right, sir? We don't have
Yeah,
any
yeah, this is the
classes
last
from
class.
coming
Yes,
weekends, right?
yes, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
sir, I just have a question that if from any place where I can actually get any previous year's question papers and all
You
that,
please come to the
can
university.
we
We
get
have a
that?
different. This is what I'm telling you. Please come to the university. We have a study
Okay.
material department altogether, where you can find not only the books but also the previous question papers. You can just relate them
Okay.
for your preparation for the examinations. You please come to the university. So we're all there, and if you have any questions, also you can get them clarified by visiting the campus. Yeah. Okay, so my dear friends, so now the time is over. So again, we'll meet hopefully as and when it is scheduled for next class, right? So thank you so much for joining the class, and I wish you the best for your preparations as well. And we are here to help you out in any situation. Please come to the university and meet us in person. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I I was disconnected, sir. Sorry. Can you please repeat that, sir?
Hello.
Yeah. Can you please repeat that, sir?
Yeah, yeah. What I'm trying to indicate here is that we'll meet again as and when the next class is scheduled. So, and before that, and if you have any questions and clarifications that you actually trying to seek, that you can always visit the campus, and we are there, and you can meet us in person, and you can get the get your doubts clear and clarified. Okay, we are there to serve you.
Okay.
Okay.
That will be good, sir. That will be good. However,
Yeah,
sir, so the
please come
previous
and
year
meet us
question
in
papers are
person.
available in the study material.
Sorry.
No, the previous year question papers will also be available in the university, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is available in the university, and we have a separate department altogether, the study material department. So you can come and ask anyone there, and if you still find any problems, you can directly come to the sociology department. We'll be there in guiding you in getting the papers as well. Yes, Navyasri is asking that yes, you can read the previous question paper also, because generally it happens that so it repeats. There is a tendency of repeating the questions, at least 70 to 80%, if I'm not wrong. But you go to the previous exam papers, at least take 5 to 6 years, or the exam papers, and But once you
The reason,
sorry.
go ahead, sir. Go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm saying that once you have that bunch of papers, that question papers, one of you can come to the university and get them, and just share them on the WhatsApp among two other members as well. All right. So at least take 5 years question papers and get
Yes.
them get prepared, because those are again repetitive in some sense. And I would not saying that those are questions again will come. It depends. It depends on the examiner. Who sets the question paper, and most of the times generally repeats. Follow them. You'll get a clear idea of preparation.
Okay,
Right.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so
Sure,
much
sir.
for joining us today. I wish you the best, and we are here to serve you. Please come anytime. Please come anytime to the campus. Okay?
So, well,
Thank-
as you mentioned, the schedule will be there. The classes will be scheduled again because we still have 1 month.
Yeah, I think it is not possible, I guess, because since you have only just 1 month, I don't think so. But these are all official classes, but unofficially you can come to our university. So this way I'm telling you is that if you have any doubts, you can come and meet us in person.
Sure, sure, sir.
Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan, for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
Manimala, you are there?
Yes.
Manimala, if you have got any of the phone numbers of any of the people who belong to sociology, can you please pass it on to me, or else so that I can actually get in touch with them?
Okay.
Okay. Or
Okay.
if you are
Tomorrow
part
I'm
of,
I'm going
if
to university, so I can take sir's number also. I will meet sir.
I thought of asking him now, but then whether of that he will share it or he's supposed to share it or no, I don't know that. That's the reason I didn't ask him.
Okay, I will ask tomorrow. If I will get, I will give you.
Okay. How will you
Okay.
give it to me? I am writing
You're
my
not
number
in a
here.
group.
No, I'm not in any group. I mean, I am in group, but then I don't know you are a part of that group or no, I don't know that. That's my number.
Yeah.
I have just shared it in chat. Can you please check it?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Anil.
Okay.
If you get any of the question papers also when you're going tomorrow, if you're getting question
Yeah.
papers, kindly share it with me, please.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Anil. Did you get the number? Did you see the number?
Yes. Yes.
You got it. Okay.